Yeah.
So one of the things I talk about, and I've mentioned it several times on when different interviews with guys and
Yeah.
gals, is so you talk about real versus real, right?
Yeah.
And how we get guys, people that grab that five fundamentals, right? And
Hmm.
you even have guys that dress and look like Hogan, right?
Yeah.
And they're swinging, they have the geometry, but they don't have the underlying dynamics. And, for competent person can see it from a distance. At the same time, you have two players that swear by that book
Yeah.
and have been the most successful
Yeah.
people to utilize that book,
Yeah.
namely John Mahaffey and
Yeah.
Larry Nelson, right? There's four
Right.
majors between the two of them. If
Yeah.
you put John Mahaffey next to Larry Nelson,
Hmm.
next to Ben Hogan, they look nothing like each other.
No. And
Meanwhile,
other.
meanwhile, they each one of their perceptions of what Hogan was saying there led
Right.
to a different geometric result in their mind. Meanwhile, I've watched you hit and I
Yeah.
watched you swing,
Yeah.
and you're probably the most Hogan-like guy I've seen in a long time. Now, here's a question.
Yeah.
Is your intent to swing and look like Hogan, or is that just a result of something else?
Well, uh, you know what? It could be a lot of things because I've read a lot of books, and but there's a lot of things about this. The swings that I like to look at, okay, when I'm going back, and these are Larry Nelson was one, David Frost was another,
Yeah,
Nick
David Frost,
Price
yeah,
was
Nick
another.
Price, yeah.
Those are the guys that I was looking at and going, wow, that's something else. And actually, when I was probably around 19 years old, there was a guy. I played at a golf course called Willowdale, and there I had never heard of Ben Hogan other than the irons. Ben Hogan irons. Oh yeah, yeah. Anyways, Larry Evans was an older gentleman at uh, uh, Willowdale, and he was club champion. And the white cap, whole everything. He was just like Ben Hogan, dressed like him, and he swung it like Ben Hogan. And so did Bill Kozak, who tremendous professional in our area. Bill just died last year or the year before. He was lived to be over 100. But these guys were the guys that I was uh, looking at, and Kozak would have been uh, same vintage. Kozak was a little bit older than Mo Norman, but there was a lot of Hogan influence in the very best players that I happened to run into and be exposed to. It's the older guys. So that was Kozak, um, and so I went out the window on modern fundamentals of golf, and I would read it again every time I got on an airplane. I'd go over it, but I was I was I was just hitting a lot of balls, and I think my swing just migrated in that direction, and I was also around Mo, which had an impact on. This is an interesting thing in those notes and stuff. I have I have here a letter that I was writing to Nick Faldo about an article that Hank Haney had written about him. That I didn't like what Hank Haney had said about Faldo's swing, and I was talking about intent and all kinds of shit. I never sent it, but I would write these things down and keep them for my own reference, right? But see, the this is the other thing. In one of those videos, a lot of people were thought I was pretty audacious because I mentioned Faldo, and who unbelievable golfer, incredible. But uh, Mo thought that Faldo could have been even better, and we talked about it. And he said he's all action, no reaction. If he had reaction, he'd be twice as good. And that so these were things. I had a lot of old timey ideas in my head, and so maybe my swing looks like Hogan because the influences are all old timey. I mean, and the other thing is too, like Bill Melhorn said, we all look a little bit different doing the same thing. Maybe there's something just about my stature, my equipment, how I've got it set up, and all of that stuff that leads to my action. My clubs are set up flat, and I generally have a fairly wide stance. I hold the club like Hogan, and so on. So in order to make all those things work, maybe the package that I end up with is just coincidentally looks that way. And I think there's a lot of things that are in there, and I'll tell you another interesting thing. When I came back to starting to play 5-6 years ago, I couldn't bust a grape. I mean, I wasn't healthy, and I'd lost a lot of weight, and I was pretty weak. But I actually got it in my head that I need to get some modern equipment for seniors. Well, that made me even worse. It was just horrible, horrible, horrible. And then I started going playing every day, and I've got 30 sets of irons up in my upstairs in my barn. I never got rid of any of my clubs, really. I took some to the Goodwill recently, but I started getting the old gear out, and I started hitting it all better. And now and stupidly, all of a sudden, I'm playing my old. I had Sounder SB4 Sebi Ballesteros. They've got no offset on them. They're just yeah, and all of a sudden I'm going, man, why am I hitting these things so great? They're not forgiving at all. They're nothing. They're like, I had the um uh you know uh I had a modern set of irons supposed to be cavity backs for forgiving and everything else. I wanted to give myself every chance to do well, and I was horrible, horrible. Um, but I don't even know how we got on this tangent. But well, it's my swing looked at I think it looked a certain way because of the ideas in my head and the equipment that how I set my equipment up, and heavy, flat, and and I can tell you, 5 years ago, my swing didn't look like my swing looked in those videos because I think it was a product of trying to make modern equipment work for me,
for you.
and it was like being a beginner all over again. But so this is interesting. I started using the old Hogan Apex irons from the first version from the 70s. I went back to my plus ones, went back to the Sounder SB4s, my Titleist Tour models, all of those clubs set to my old specs with the old stiff shafts. I'd gone light and more flexible because of my delicate
Your health situation, sure.
elderly condition. But I went back to all of those things, and now I've started to build because some of them are the shafts are sort of spent and they're old, but I I've found some modern heads that are have a little bit of forgiveness and have zero offset, and I'm like, okay, here's something I can work with, and I started using them at the tail end of last year, and my tee to green game has come full circle. I'm starting to actually hit the ball well. And what's interesting is by making the changes in the irons, my driving got way better because I'm swinging a driver the same way I swing my irons. But this uh, horrible iron swing that I got going with with the new equipment migrated into my driver. But so equipment is you can't make those moves work if the equipment uh, isn't uh, meshed up with what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, I think even instruction, uh, modern instruction is built around modern golf courses and modern equipment.
Right,
So
right.
the classic swing, the classic swing, I think is timeless. If you swung like Hogan in the 50s and you came out and swung like Hogan in
Yeah,
2030, you'd still be striping it.